So, dear friends, we are going to start the Sutta discussion. The topic Sutta we have been discussing is Samannaphala Sutta, the fruits of contemplative life. This is the fifth discussion on the Samannaphala Sutta. This sutta is recorded in Digha Nikaya. This is the second sutta of the Digha Nikaya. I explained to you that Samannaphala Sutta is one of the discourses where the fruits of priesthood uh, have been explained well by the Buddha. So we came to know that how wonderful this life is when it compares to lay life. So Buddha has given so many analogies, similes, instances to the king Ajatasattu about priest life. We were comparing the monk's life to the life of other ascetic at that time of the Buddha in the first section of the discourse. In that, we were discussing that King Ajatasattu talk about the six famous teachers at the time of the Buddha, including Nigantanatha Putta, Purna Kassapa, Gaya Kassapa, Pakkuda Kachayana, Sanjay Bellatiputta, and so on. So the king was so worried about the assassination of his own father, and he loved his son very much. So when King Ajatasattu uh, loved his son very much, he remembered how much love my father had on me. Then he realized that he did a very, very great bad deed by killing his own father, and he was looking for teachers, religious teachers, to get help, psychological help. So, with the ministers, with friends, he went to those six teachers and asked the question of the purpose of priestly life. Then these six teachers, instead of answering the question to the question, they gave their own teaching, which are not related to the question the king asked. Then he was upset, and this has been going on for a couple of days and weeks. On one day, king was outside of his palace on the top story of his building. Then king was asking whether I can go to religious leaders and could get help, because I'm so suffering. I'm in a suffering because of all these things. Then Jivaka, one of his ministers, told him that there is the Buddha in his garden, and you can meet him at the garden if you go there. So then Jivaka, being a follower of the Buddha and also being the physicians to the Buddha, explained the qualities of the Buddha in a beautiful way. Then king, with his queens and other people in the security guard, went to the place where the Buddha was. We discussed this part, but I'm just trying to bring the point in the whole sutta why we understand the fruits of priesthood, because it is important, because that is one of the life that many people decide to go with in order to attain enlightenment. The other reason that I emphasize so much on this topic, because as lay people, many of you could not see the inner life of monks and nuns, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. By this teaching, based on the discourse, you may be able to see how priests, gain their development on sila, samadhi, and panya. So then king was explain the beautiful things about monk's life, nun's life, as they duly enter into the order. So we were discussing the section on moral principles with categories, Chula Sila, the minor section of Sila, and we spent a great deal of time for that. Then we move on to second part of the Sila called Majjhima Sila, or middle section of the Sila in the discourse. We were discussing about how monks and nuns go on Pindapata, and how they share these things based on moral principle, then how they use for requisite, and they even avoid of doing so many things that lay people do because of the gravity of the principles they follow. We move on to the last section of the Sila, which is called higher section of Sila. In that we talk about the six sensory restraint and all these practices that we do for mindfulness. Mindfulness on body, mindfulness on feelings, and so on. Now we have gone through all these principles that a monk and nuns practice just to complete their Sila section, and in that we came to compare ourselves to the lay people. Buddha said that lay life is full of duties and responsibilities, and people cannot stop doing that until they die, because you are bound with children or husband and wife, relatives, and you have certain duties that you should always continue to do. But monk's life is a life that you let go of all these things and come to a monastery or a temple and vow yourself to practice the Dhamma for attaining enlightenment. So this very fact shows you how wonderful monk's life is. So when a monk or a bhikkhuni, female, ordained disciple of the Buddha, when they enter to the order, there is a purpose always. What is the purpose? Practicing principles, just because to concentrate well, to gain samadhi. Samadhi is one of the stronghold of Buddha's teaching when bhikkhus and bhikkhunis go forward to enlightenment. Samadhi is the existing feeling of Nibbana, or the current feeling of Nibbana, or the momentary feeling of Nibbana. At Samadhi, as we have heard, we don't have any mental problems, including restlessness, worry, anxiety, frustration. We don't have them in Samadhi. So Samadhi is therefore the experience of Nibbana that we usually get right now. So it is very important to talk about Samadhi. Today's focus of the discussion is to understand the five hindrances, uh, and also going into jhanic experiences, and why jhana is important and what it brings to us after that. So that's the area we focus today in order to understand the contemplative life and its fruits. So you can see the line called overcoming five hindrances, Panchanivarna. So in the name of meditation, what we try is to do overcome the five hindrances. I think all of you know the five hindrances. Let me read the part of the discourse about the five hindrances. Without the lesser, middle, and higher sila, the sense restraint, mindfulness, and clear comprehension and contentment, abandoning five hindrances is not achieved. That is not exactly from the discourse, but it is what I wanted to tell you, that without the sila part, including sense restraint, mindfulness, clear comprehension, contentment on food, robes, shelter, and so forth, abandoning five hindrances is not achievable. So, in other words, one can overcome five hindrances when he or she only take care of his or her sila, and also restrain, mindfulness, and so forth. So if you remember the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, we come across those things: restraint, and also clear comprehension, then meditation on elements, and meditation on different part of the body. So all these practices are designed to destroy the five hindrances. So here I am saying you that overcoming five hindrances doesn't happen just because you like to destroy them, just because the Buddha said, just because you sit for one meditation session. It has some hard work behind that. We should have some hard work on moral principles in order to overcome five hindrances. uh, the bhikkhu or bhikkhuni associate a silent place such as caves and mountains and forest, and the places where monks can meditate, such as the cemetery or anywhere else. So Buddha said in the discourse that those who have completed the moral principles being at the monastery among the monks, senior monks, they should go to places where they can meditate. So, having gone to the uh, prescribed places by the Buddha, basically we try to overcome the five hindrances. What are the five hindrances? Sensual desires, ill will, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry, and skeptical doubts. These are the five hindrances. Why do we call these five uh, hindrances? Because they hinder the arising of wisdom, the arising of samadhi. They uh, make a barrier for us to go into the nirvana. So their duty is to develop ignorance, greed, hatred, and all these defiled state of mind. Therefore, they are not healthy, they are not wholesome. So the one who strives to meditate and gain momentum for enlightenment always should take care of his mind, uh, and try to overcome these five hindrances. So these are the five hindrances. In sitting posture, when a monk or a nun um, go to meditate, they would be able to realize what these five hindrances initially, and then start meditation with the meditation subject, and definitely you will have one of these or couple of these or all of these in during the meditation. Without seeing these five hindrances, you won't be able to get samadhi. First thing, according to our noble eightfold path, you have to have the samma ditthi, right understanding about five hindrances. For example, you start meditation on breathing. A few minutes after the meditation, after you start the meditation, you have some thoughts coming in and going out that you cannot control. They are all about what you did during the day. They were about singing, dancing, or wishing some sort of things that are not favorable to your mindfulness and so forth. So that's called sensual pleasure popping up your mind. So you try your best to overcome it, but it doesn't happen. Then you feel angry mood. You feel anger is coming in. This is how the five hindrances could attack to you, blocking you to get mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So sleepiness, drowsiness, and doubt, you can experience them in during the meditation. So our purpose is not to experience these five hindrances, but they come, they appear in our mind. So we would be able to recognize them and accept them as they are, and then overcome them, wishing yourself peace and happiness. So this is how we do with the five hindrances. Dealing with the five hindrances is really necessary to go into samadhi, specifically speaking, jhanic experiences. Now we move on to the next thing we need to discuss. How do you feel when five hindrances are overcome? That is one of the things we need to understand. How do you feel when five hindrances are overcome? So, friends, Uh, when five hindrances exist in our mind, we never feel happy, joyous. We never feel relaxation. We could not speak well. Our mind is agitated, um, and it is overcome by greed, hatred, ignorance. So we are not in peace. That's how we feel when we have one or two or couple of hindrances in our mind. So, but when we are able to overcome them, we feel happy. I do not know whether you experience those states of samadhi, but in my experience, I feel so joyous, wonderful, excellent, because your mind is settled, your body is so cooperative with the mind, then you feel enormous joy in your body and mind. So I have shown you a picture here, and also give a simile given by the Buddha in the discourse. Suppose a man were to take a loan and apply it to his business. This is an example we give to understand the pleasure and happiness with the without the five hindrances. When you overcome five hindrances, you feel joy, and to understand that joy, we give an example here. uh, so suppose a man were to take a loan and apply it to his business, and his business were to succeed so that he could pay back his old debts and would have enough money left over to maintain a wife. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Where the simile is very clear, it is said that you take a loan to invest on a business. So we know that if we borrow something from somebody, uh, we hesitate to keep it all the time because we feel uncomfortable. When we give it back, we feel happy because in our possession it could be stolen and it could be damaged. Then we have to buy a new one and give it to you, and it's so uncomfortable. So, however, if we manage to use it for the things we want to use it and give it back, we feel joy. In this example, you take a loan and you cannot sleep until you succeed your business with the loan you got. Somehow you managed to do it. You earn a lot of money investing that money you took from the bank or any financial institution. Now you have enough income and you slowly pay back that loan. Finally, you finish it. Now you are joyous because you have enough money to lead a life with a wife and with the wife and children, and you don't have any financial issues now. So you are joyous. That imagine that happiness. So Buddha said in the discourse that the entering into jhana and samadhi brings us happiness similar to the happiness of that man who took the loan and succeeded his business. So that's the simile Buddha has given in the discourse. There is another simile uh, for us to understand the pleasure and joy of jhanic experiences. The second simile associate with a man who is sick. Suppose a man were to become sick, afflicted, gravely ill, so that he could not enjoy his food and his strength would decline. After some time, he would recover from that illness and would enjoy his food and regain his bodily strength. He would reflect on this. As a result, he would become glad and experience joy. The simile is very clear. When we are sick, we don't feel appetite, we don't feel joy, we don't feel relaxation, body is aching. Because of that, mind has gone down, the mental strength and physical strength have been um, decreased into greater extent. Overall we don't feel happy. How about if you take medicine and rest enough, and then you slowly gain these appetites and mental and physical strength and other things, so you are happy that you could work as before. So the feeling of joy and happiness by getting out of sickness is compared to the jhanic experiences where you completely overcome the five hindrances. So friends, overcoming five hindrances should be your target now, because you have been understanding the sila in, with minor and middle and higher section. Then you have been knowing what to do after that. Then now you are about to overcome five hindrances. How happy your mind when you overcome five hindrances are explained with this simile. So our target now should be to overcome five hindrances in meditation, even out of meditation. So Buddha's recommendation of five hindrances and related things are not only for the sitting posture. It should be done in each occasion, even in other postures. So I'm pushing you to understand that we could overcome five hindrances not only in sitting posture, even while we are talking, even while we are having conversation, even in gathering, even in other activities of our life. We could keep our mind out of these five hindrances. So your goal or in your practice is to overcome five hindrances. This is the outer layer of the greed, hatred, and ignorance. I have told you in other discourses that five hindrances are representation of the root causes of suffering: greed, hatred, and delusion. So first, in the first place, your effort is to understand the five hindrances and overcome them. Without overcoming five hindrances, you cannot see the roots of craving. So with this simile, Buddha is giving the king Ajatasattu that overcoming five hindrances bring you joy. It's just like uh, a person recovers from a sickness and feel joy. That joy is quite similar to the joy of jhanic experiences. So this is what we discuss in the second simile. Now we move on to the third simile. You can see the picture now, that a man is in a cell and he is so worried. But after a couple of months or couple of days, he got free from the prison, and the five hindrances is compared to the prison. If you allow um, the sensual pleasures, ill will, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry and doubt develop in your life, you imprison yourself. No freedom at all you experience there. So you feel frustrated, you cry, you want more, you are not satisfied, no peace at all you experience. Therefore, you are in prison. But how you become free from all the allegations, all the corruptions, all the punishment that a person gets when he or she is in the prison? So you feel joy because you are going to see your wife, children, parents, mother and father. We are going to unite with your own family members, so you feel joy. So the simile, suppose a man were locked up in a prison. After some time he would be released from prison, safe and secure, with no loss of his possession. He would reflect on this, and as a result he would become glad and experience joy. So you can see that how beautiful it is to be in jhanic experience, because you are totally free from difficulties, even though it is a temporary time period. But that happiness is not compared to the other happiness in life. So that's the third simile. Now we go to the fourth one, the fourth simile in the discourse. The picture shows a boy holding a big wood, and this boy, this child, is a slave. And the picture was taken from the internet, and I just wanted to show you this. Suppose you are a slave, you are a servant of a very furious boss. So you want to go away from, but you cannot. Then you work for that cruel man with punishment. But one day, because of some good karma, you are able to free from the slavery, and you enjoy freedom now. So um, living with five hindrances is just like uh, you are in slavery. You are so suppressed by the authority, by the power, uh, held by people. But now you free from all these things, then the joy and happiness is enormous. So when you live with sensual pleasures, kama chand, vyapada, the ill will, and sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry and doubts, these are some of the uh, you know some of the unskillful feelings that keep people in prison. So when you overcome these things, you must be in great joy. Now we come to the other simile in the discourse. It says, suppose a man with wealth and possessions were traveling along a desert and road where food was scarce and dangers were many. After some time, he would cross the desert and arrive safely at a village which is safe and free from danger. He would reflect on this. As a result, he would become glad and experience joy. So the simile is clear. Suppose you were in a remote area where there is no end that you can see. So you become upset, frightened, scared, because you could die on the middle of the vacant area, the desert. So a lot of things come to our mind. We think of our children, parents, brothers and sisters, husband and wife, and everything I have, because you have a life-threatening danger. Finally, you would be able to cross over that vacant area or the desert and came to a place where you can see a village or a town or a human. Then the joy is enormous, because a few minutes ago or 1 hour ago you were really crying because you feel that you are going to die. But now you feel you have a new hope, that you see people, and you see animals, you see the beautiful nature. So these are the five similes given by the Buddha in the discourse, to show how wonderful, how beautiful, how peaceful it is when you overcome five hindrances. So, on the other hand, you can understand that how dangerous to live with the five hindrances. Understand five hindrances: kama, chanda, vyapad, uh, tina, midda, uddhacha, kukucha, vichikicha, sensual pleasures, ill will, sleepiness and drowsiness, and restlessness and worry and doubts. If you are going to live with one of these things, at least your life become a hell. So Buddha expect from monks and nuns, once they completed their training on principles, to do some meditation to get this samadhi experiences, because he knows that if a bhikkhu or bhikkhuni or even a lay people uh, develop their mind into samadhi level, that is the best thing so far they experience. So they try to do it again and again. As a result, they don't allow themselves to enjoy in sensory experiences. They do not rely on normal things. they always try their best in sitting posture, in other postures, to cut off the path for five hindrances and bring all these spiritual qualities into practice. This is why the pleasure of jhanic experience is important. This is why we need to understand the five hindrances and related things. So now we move on. This is one of the sources you can go and read more about what to do to overcome five hindrances. Now we move on to the next thing we need to discuss, that is jhanic experiences. We all know that jhana is a discovery of the Buddha. Even before the Buddha, there were people who experienced jhana definitely. It is not our intention to discuss why they did not are not so appreciated so much in the name of samadhi, and we are not going to discuss what happened to them with the samadhi experiences and so forth. But now we are going to focus about the jhanic experiences in terms of getting into. So you can see the picture of a monk, and that's how usually we meditate, just to bring our scattered mind into the body, then the feelings, then the mind and mental state, then we single out our mind, and it's called samadhi, concentration. So the first jhana is the first thing of the samadhi. Samadhi could be categorized into four or into many sections, but basically into four. Samadhi is the big word, and jhana is inside of samadhi. So in samadhi we have first jhana. This is what Buddha said to King Ajatasattu. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome state, he enters or she enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought and filled with the rapture and happiness born of seclusion. So we can see that the first jhana has five qualities: applied thoughts, the first one; the second one, the sustained thoughts; the third one, rapture; and the fourth one, happiness; and the last one, the fifth one pointedness or seclusion. So when you overcome five hindrances simultaneously, you are entering into the first jhana. So you overcome five and you get five more things which are peaceful, excellent. So the five hindrances are unwholesome state of mind. Now you develop yourself into five spiritual qualities. So that is the significant. I think this is one of the places where human beings and a divine being cross over their level from mundane to supramundane, because you are not in supramundane level, but you have an assurance that it is possible. So friends, when you overcome the five hindrances, you get the first jhana, and in the first jhana you have applied thought, you have sustained thought, rapture, happiness, one pointedness or seclusion. So if you experience these five qualities in your mind, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, I would say that you are in jhana. It could happen when you listen to a Dhamma talk. If the Dhamma talk is really matching for you and you are also physically and mentally attentive to the listening, so this could happen that you experience the first jhana with these five qualities. Applied thought means you apply to that particular, the meditation. For example, you do meditation on breathing. At the beginning you could not concentrate well, but now your mind is bound with the in and out breathing. It doesn't go anywhere else, but stay with the breathing. Then it's called applied thought. So you sustain that thought. It means that you have no problem with with the observation onto breathing, and you keep it for long time. So that means you sustain on the particular mentality there, one pointedness. Then because of that, rapture arises and sukha arises, what we call happiness arises, and then one pointedness is there. At this occasion, you are not disturbed by any sounds, any talking, anything like that, because your mind is concentrated and you are not paying attention to all these things. So that's the beauty of the first jhana. We can add so many things here, but I shorten my explanation uh, into certain extent because today we do not have that much time to discuss. So now we move on to the second jhana. With the subsiding of applied and sustained thought, the bhikkhu or bhikkhuni enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by the internal confidence and unification of mind, is without applied and sustained thought, and is filled with the rapture and happiness born of concentration. I took this excerpt from the uh, Samannaphala Sutta. I have mentioned here the qualities of the second jhana. There is no applied thought, no sustained thought. So when you come to the second jhana, uh, you you overcome these two, sustain and applied thought. Due to that overcoming of sustain and applied thought, you have an internal peace or unification of mind. Friends, I cannot explain those empirical things because it could differ from person to person, and everybody has the chance to do that. So language is always poor to explain the inner peace. So here I just want to emphasize for you that due to thinking part, due to using your mind to think and ponder, you would be able to not to experience joy, but now you overcome the applied and sustained thought. Because of that, a huge, a deep, very subtle samadhi has arisen in your heart. So internal confidence and unification is coming out of that. Then rapture, pleasure again increase its level. So as you said, as now you are in great joy. So this is the second jhana. Now we talk about the third jhana, one of the happiest mentalities uh, among the jhana. Therefore, the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis and people who meditated, you know, are in opinion that this is the most subtle, most joyous jhanic experiences. In the first jhana, you have thinking part. Then in the second jhana, you stop that, but still you are talking. But when you come to the third jhana, you stop all these things and experience the pleasure, the rapture, and some other things related to these facts. So, therefore, entering into the third jhana is really important. Let me read the part taken from the discourse. With the fading away of rapture, the bhikkhu dwells in equanimity, mindful and clear comprehending, and experiences happiness with the body. So, in the third jhana, we fade away the rapture, then equanimity is there, mindfulness is there, clear comprehension is there. So you experience that power through your body. Therefore, he enters and dwells in the third jhana, for which the noble ones declare he dwells happily with equanimity and mindfulness. So, this is the third jhana. Noble happiness is the prominent quality here. I was focusing that earlier, that happiness in this third jhana is enormous, incomparable to the previous two. Now we come to the last one, which we call the fourth jhana. For these four jhanas are included into Samma Samadhi or right concentration in Noble Eightfold Path. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and grief, the bhikkhu enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither pleasant nor painful, and contains mindfulness fully purified by equanimity. So, this is the nature of our mind when we attain to the fourth jhana, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain. See, um, in the fourth jhana, you do not enjoy any pleasure. You do not enjoy. You do not have any pain too. So neither pleasure nor pain exist physically. Then it says with the previous passing away of joy and grief. So we talk about the physical pleasure and pain. Now we talk about the mental joy and grief. So the bhikkhu or bhikkhuni or the layperson who try their best to attain the fourth jhana always should not enjoy any previous physical and mental happiness or uh, physical and mental joy and suffering or whatever it is. So you overcome everything. So in the fourth jhana you experience the highest mindfulness, concentration, equanimity and samadhi. That's what Buddha said. So the Buddha explained these jhana and other related things to King Ajatasattu to show how he explained the fruits of monk's life. So now mindfulness and equanimity are highly developed in the fourth jhana. So we can ask a question now. What are the purposes of samadhi? Why do we work so hard to bring samadhi in this way? Why samadhi is necessary for nibbana? Without samadhi, can't we get into nirvana? So these are some of the questions that people used to ask from monks. So we would be able to find answers for this. So I found a beautiful stanza in the Dhammapada. It is 372 words of the Dhammapada. Let me read it. Natti janang apanyasa panya natti ajayato yam hi janancha panyacha save nibbana santike. Once again, natti janang apanyasa panya natti ajayato yam hi janancha panyacha save nibbana santike. I hope some of you could guess the meaning of this stanza. It's one of the famous stanzas of meditation instructors. Let me read the meaning. There can be no concentration in one who lacks wisdom. There can be no wisdom in one who lacks concentration. He who has concentration as well as wisdom is indeed close to Nibbana. So the message is very clear here that without concentration we cannot develop wisdom. Without wisdom we cannot develop concentration. So if one wants to attain Nibbana, he or she has to develop both samadhi and panya, concentration and wisdom. So this shows why samadhi is really necessary. This shows the purpose of the samadhi. So samadhi is to develop wisdom. Samadhi is to clear our path to Nibbana. So once you are in samadhi and master on that, you will feel how you react to things. You will feel how your perception change. You will feel how your physical body deteriorate. You will feel so many things because your mind is concentrated. Your mind is tamed and restrained. That's called samadhi. So samadhi is always has a purpose. Let me tell you something that I discussed some time ago. Today, some people question about the 5 principles, 8 principles, 8 lifetime principles, and 10 principles, and some were to raise question on Samannaphala, the moral principles for novice monks and nuns, and some were to question about the the importance of any type of principles in attaining enlightenment. So friends, Buddha said very clearly in many discourses, including the Samannaphala Sutta, that bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, even lay people, should practice sila, to gain concentration, and then concentration is based on the sila, do some another thing, that is allowing wisdom to arise. So this is the purpose of samadhi or jhana. Now, what type of benefits we can get in our life as monks and nuns? That is the very important thing to understand. So, what are the fruits of contemplative life with the samadhi? So, if you are in samadhi, you could experience insight knowledge. That is one of the fruits of contemplative in this discourse. Buddha said that, King, when a bhikkhu or bhikkhuni follow all these regulations, rules, and norms as a monk and nun, they happen to experience samadhi. As a result of developed samadhi, they will have inside knowledge. They even today, any person could experience inside knowledge if they are based on samadhi, jhana, and other principles. So the first thing of wisdom is inside knowledge. We can discuss them in detail later on, but now I will show you what you get as knowledges based on samadhi. The second one, the knowledge of the mind made body. So the knowledge of the mind made body is achieved based on samadhi. The third one, the knowledge of the modes of supernormal powers. The modes of supernormal powers. The fourth one, the knowledge of the divine ear. The fifth one, the knowledge of encompassing the mind of others. The sixth one, the knowledge of recollecting past lives. Then the seventh one, the knowledge of the divine eye. The eighth one, the knowledge of the destruction of cankers. So these are the 8 fruits of contemplative life as mentioned in the Samannaphala Sutta. Now we need to go into details of each knowledges, each fruits of contemplative life with regard to Panya. The first one, inside knowledge. Inside knowledge is achieved when you develop samadhi into greater extent. I want to add here that suppose a monk or a nun or a lay person develop his mind into samadhi level for the first time. He or she never experienced that kind of joy before. There is no guarantee that this particular newcomer into jhana get into the panya level in this way. In other words, the inexperienced meditator could not develop inside knowledge, other knowledges immediately after the meditator get into samadhi, because he doesn't or she doesn't have enough experience in samadhi. Therefore, Buddha said very clearly that monks and nuns and lay people need to master on samadhi level. It means that suppose you get the first jhana today by meditating, and then next days after that, over and over again, you need to get into the jhanic experience. Then you are a master on that. You know how to get it. You know which way you need to apply your thoughts and other things, and you are master about the details of gaining samadhi. Once you are in that level, your mind is thus concentrated, pure, bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attain to the imperturbability. This is the exact phrases, words Buddha used to explain the beauty of the mind which is in fourth jhana. So even the Bodhisattva, before he attained to enlightenment, meditated under the Bodhi tree and experienced this kind of samadhi. Then only he developed his mind. He directed his mind into Pubbenivasanusati, being able to see his own past lives. So now the monk or a nun develops his mind into this level. Let's read it again. When his or her mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, free from defilement, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attain to imperturbability, so he directs or she directs or incline it to knowledge and vision. What is this knowledge and vision? Inside knowledge is about the arising and existing and passing away of physical body, or it is supported by the consciousness depending on food and so on. That part is incomplete here. I put it here just to get kind of knowledge. So the inside knowledge means that you understand the physical body and mind, and everything arises and slowly exists for certain period of time and pass away. So the arising of all these things could exist with changes for a certain period of time, but definitely they are going to pass away. So if you have this knowledge based on samadhi, you slowly develop this knowledge. Actually, the completion of this knowledge come into being when someone attain to full enlightenment, the arahantship. Others below that have sort of inside knowledge, but which is not completed yet. So this is the first fruit of contemplative life with regard to panya. Now we go to the second one, the knowledge of the mind-made body. You know that these some of these knowledges that we have that we are going to discuss are not necessary to complete the full enlightenment. Once again, let me tell that fact because it is important. Some of the knowledges we are going to discuss here are not gained by some monks and nuns at the attainment of full enlightenment. Some practice samadhi into the level they could destroy the defilements and they attain to arahantship. They are unable to read others' mind. They are unable to make mind-made bodies. They are unable to go on different objects. They are unable to fly in the sky. They are unable to sink down to the earth because they don't have that skills. But they are arhants by destroying the craving, defilement. So that's what I wanted to share you. Anyway, these are fruits of contemplative life. The second one we are discussing now is the knowledge of mind-made body. It means that you can create a lot of similar bodies of you. Remember the story of Chulapantaka. Chulapantaka was a monk who could not remember anything. So his elder brother asked Chulapantaka, Venerable Chulapantaka, to go home because you are not able to memorize any stanza of the Buddha's teaching. So he was expelled from the monastery. Then Buddha found him and gave meditation instruction with a piece of cloth, and while he was rubbing the white piece of cloth, he realized that everything is like this. The white cloth was so bright, but when it is rubbed together, it became dusty, and that brightness was completely gone. He compared things to his life, his mind, that my mind and body also have the same nature, and immediately he got into nirvana. He got into full enlightenment with some skills. The skills we talk about is that he could create a lot of forms, lot of similar bodies out of his body. So the Buddha and Chullapantaka's brother monk and many other monks went to an almsgiving, keeping Chullapantaka at the monastery with the practice. Then Buddha did not accept the food from people because he said that, are you sure that you devotee invited all the monks in the monastery? Yes. Then, but Buddha said that there is another monk at the monastery, so go and take him. Then a man was sent to the monastery, and he saw that there is not only one monk, there are more than couple of hundred monks are there. Then he came back to the house of the donor of the dana and reported the matter to the Buddha, that there are many monks similar, which has similar face, similar style of living, and so forth. Then Buddha said, go again and asked, where is Chullapantaka? Then everybody would say that I am Chullapantaka, I am Chullapantaka. But you remember to hold the robe of one monk closer to you, then it will be solved. The man did the same thing as the Buddha said, and Chullapantaka appeared as a single person. So that miracle it was done by Chullapantaka. He created so many similar bodies out of his body. So that is one fruits of contemplative life. But I want to tell you that this is not necessary to attain enlightenment. Those who attain to enlightenment could not have this skill. This is a extraordinary skills that some monks, some bhikkhunis, some lay people develop through merits, through right effort, through contemplation on different direction when they are in jhana. So, so some people could not do this kind of things. Let me read that part. When the mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attain to imperturbability, when you are experiencing unshakable deliverance of mind, or when you experience steady mind, you direct your mind uh, to create mind-made bodies. From this body he creates another body having material form and mind-made, complete in all its parts, not lacking any faculty. So these are the detailed explanation given to the particular knowledge. So we see that now. So now we move on to the next one, which is the third one. That is the knowledge of the modes of supernormal powers. So Buddha did some miracles, as you know, for the purpose for some purposes. So when the monk is in concentrated, pure and bright and unblemished mind, his mind is now therefore in a good positions to direct his mind towards something. As said, he or she directs or inclines into the modes of supernormal powers. It is beyond the normal powers, it is beyond normal capabilities. He exercises the various modes of supernormal powers, such as having been one, he becomes many. Having been many, he becomes one. He appears and vanishes. He fly in the sky. He disappear. So these are some of the things you could do in this category, supernormal powers. So you can see the picture there that the Buddha did a twin miracle. So he created fire and also water out of his body at the same time. Being in the sky, he did it. So that's one miracle that Buddha could do, and there were many, and there were some arahants, male and female, who could do that. Even Devadatta, the hostile monk to the Buddha, was able to do some miracles. So this is the third fruits of contemplative life. So now we go to the fourth one, the knowledge of the divine ear. So it means that you could hear subtle sounds. Our human ear is limited, but you could hear so many things. It may not. It may not that your ear is developed. Let me tell you from another word that your eardrum is not touched here. Your any body parts related to ear are not developed, but your mind has the ability to listen to the conversation, the things far away from you. Suppose the Buddha was in the human world, and he could listen to some talks between deities, between Brahmas, and he could hear to voices of monks who were in the forest monasteries. So many things he could do with this extraordinary quality. So the knowledge of the divine eye. Again, you get it when your mind is concentrated fully, and when your mind is associating the imperturbable nature, then you direct your mind to the divine eye ear elements. With the divine ear elements, which is purified and surpasses the human, he hears both kinds of sound, the divine and the human, those which are distant and those which are near. So that's the ability we could have if we develop this special quality. So now we go to the fifth one, the knowledge of encompassing the mind of others. So another ability that you can develop, this is also recorded as a fruit of monk's life. It is also developed through the samadhi. First you need to get into samadhi level and develop with that, then you direct your mind to the knowledge of encompassing the minds of others. He understand or she understand the mind of others, other beings and person, having compared them with his own mind. So suppose you are standing or sitting in front of someone, then by looking at this particular person in front of you, you close your eyes, now you can see him. So he has a name or she has a name and you know it, and then by the name of that person you reflect the body shape, and you also remember his speech and so forth. This is how you direct that man. Suppose you remember a person from England, so we can think of them, we can direct our attention to the particular person by his name and by her name, and in this special quality we could be able to see the current place he is in and what he's talking and so forth, because your mind is the bridge to that man's behavior at this moment. So the knowledge of encompassing the minds of others happen like that. It doesn't need the focused person to be far away from you. It could be even close to you. Suppose you were sitting with another person on a bench. Technically you cannot see his mind, what thoughts he has mind, but if you have this quality in your mind developed, you could read his mind. So this is another fruits of contemplative life. So the third para, it says that he understands a mind with lust as a mind with lust, and a mind without lust as a mind without lust. So you see the quality of the other person's mind. When it is free from greed, you know it. When it is full of greed, you know it. When it is in samadhi, you know it. So it is a very good ability if you could develop it, because you could read others' mind and do more for the social well-being. So the sixth one, the knowledge of recollecting past lives. We have been talking about this many times, because when the Buddha attained to enlightenment, he achieved this knowledge, and it's specifically mentioned in many discourses. So when you attain to samadhi level, you direct your mind to recollecting past lives of your own and as well as others. Here we mean our own past lives. Then we go to the seventh, the knowledge of divine um I. So we talk about the divine ear. Now we talk about the divine I. Uh, by this name, divine eye, Dibba Chaku, we mean many things, even divine ear and being able to read others' mind come under this big category. So, divine eye sometimes is explained as one of the biggest achievements of the Buddha, of some arahants, of some people. Uh, so again, this is another results of contemplative life. So it is similar to the other knowledges. You get into samadhi, then you direct your mind to know, to develop the divine eye. He or she direct and incline it to the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of being. This is the second knowledge on that day that achieved. So understand karma, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate is included into this divine eye. Now we are in the eighth um, uh, fruits of contemplative life with regard to panya. It is the knowledge of the destruction of the cankers, which is the last one, which is the most important one. No matter how many knowledges, such as divine eye, divine ear, being able to read others' mind, and so forth, we are still in sansara. We are still in suffering. We are still liable to suffering. So now the knowledge of destruction of the cankers or asavas uh, is there, and it is the most important knowledge you could get as a bhikkhu and bhikkhuni. Buddha said to King Ajatasattu that uh, cankers or asavas are the results of what we say, what we do in the samsara. Now the monk or a nun take a decisions to destroy the cankers. So, when his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he or she directs and incline it to the knowledge of the destruction of cankers. He understands as it really is. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering, and this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So basically we understand that this is the suffering, this is the rising of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering, which means we understand the Four Noble Truths. So destroying cankers and completing the Four Noble Truths happens together. This is suffering is equalized. These are the cankers. This is the origin of suffering is equalized. This is the origin of cankers. And this is the cessation of suffering. And this is the cessation of cankers. And this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering is quite similar to this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. It means that knowing the canker as they are, seeing the causes of cankers as they are, and destroying the cankers and the path leading to the destruction of canker is the knowledge of destruction of cankers. So Buddha uh, uh, explained all these things to the king Ajatasattu and Jivaka and others ministers in the discourse. So we have three asavas, three cankers in the discourse. Actually, it is not mentioned in the discourse, but I wanted to tell you what are the three cankers that usually Buddha destroyed at the attainment of enlightenment, and any bhikkhu, any bhikkhuni destroy in their attainment. The first one, the canker of sensual desire, kamasava in Pali. So the second one, the canker of existence, bhavasava. The third one, the canker of ignorance, avijja. So these are the three cankers, or the asavas, or the continuous flow of craving that one should develop at the attainment of this eight knowledge. When it is liberated, now we read the one of the common statement done by the Buddha after that, after attaining all these knowledges. When it is liberated, the knowledge arises, it is liberated. He understands, destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is nothing further beyond this. So the one who uh, destroy the asavas, or the cankers, defilement, understand himself or herself that uh, now I'm not going to reborn. The reborn is completely taken out. The holy life, in my life, I have done everything. There is nothing to be done. So I have completed my training on the Buddha's teaching. He or she understood like that. So then we go into uh, the discourse to see what happened after that. Now Buddha has explained everything he could with regard to the Samannaphala, the fruits of contemplative life, to King Ajatasattu. So the discourse begins with why monks and nuns practice this dharma, because lay people, the king said that lay people have achievements in their life, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being a farmer, businessman, and getting into government service, public service, and people have so many achievements in their life while they were living with wives and children, making them educated, and doing businesses are some of the objectives they have. So then the king asked, like that, do you have the purposes of your priesthood? Do you have goals of your contemplative life? Then the Buddha started from Sila. Now he ended up with complete destruction of asavas. So the king, having listened to all these beautiful teachings, specifically the fruits of contemplative life, said to the Buddha that I want to become a lay follower. I want to become a student of you. I want to become a real Buddhist. He said, excellent venerable sir, excellent venerable sir. Just as if one were to turn upright what had been turned upside down, or to reveal what was hidden, or to point out the right path to one who has lost, or to bring a lamp into a dark place so that those with keen sight could see forms. In the same way, Venerable Sir, the Exalted One has revealed the Dhamma in numerous ways. I go for refuge to the Exalted One, the Dhamma, and to the Bhikkhu Sangha. Let the Exalted One accept me as a lay follower, gone for refuge from this day onwards as long as I live. So the king promised himself in front of the Buddha that he go to the refuge of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha as a lay follower, and he confirmed that from this moment to the last moment of my life, I become a Buddhist, I become one of your students. Please accept my confirmation, he said. So then we come to the point that King Ajatasattu killed his own father. Therefore, he said, Venerable Sir, a transgression overcame me. I was so foolish, so deluded, so unskillful that for the sake of rulership or the kingship, I took the life of my own father, a righteous man and a righteous king. You know that because Buddha was so close to King Bimbisara, and they were in same age, and they were very close even before the Buddha became enlightenment. So King Ajatasattu knew that. So he was in confession now. Let the exalted one acknowledge my transgression as a transgression for the sake of my restraint in the future. So King Ajatasattu knows that he could restrain himself if the Buddha gave kind of consoling words. If Venerable Sir, you accept my apologies, I could have a chance to recover myself from those misdeed, he said. Then the Buddha said, since you have seen your transgression as a transgression and make amends for it according to the Dhamma, we acknowledge it. So Buddha did not give any idea just because he thought. He said that according to the Dhamma. This is one of the important points we need to remember. We cannot say whatever we want based on our personal ideas. We should based on the pure Dhamma. Today, many people in the Sangha, in the lay community, say whatever they want. It could be their personal views, but if you want to say something from the Buddha's teaching, you should based on the Dhamma. You should refer to the discourses, primary teaching. So here we can see that even the Buddha said that according to the Dhamma, I acknowledge it. There is certain things like that, because Buddha has asked based on his teaching to us that you become compassionate to any cruel person, any bad person, because they are all human beings. So we based on the Dhamma give our kind hands to any person. So that's what Buddha did here. For great king, this is growth in the discipline of the noble one, that a person sees his transgression as a transgression, makes amends for it according to the Dhamma, and achieves restraint in the future. So for the purpose of restraint on the Dhamma and discipline, you need to understand your mistakes and amend yourself, and that is the purpose of transgression. That's why I accept it, Buddha said. So then king went out with the ministers and so forth. Then Buddha turned to bhikkhus and said this king, bhikkhus, has ruined himself by killing his father, by associating Venerable Devadatta, and having so many sensual pleasures throughout his life for the kinship and so forth. He did a lot of bad things. He has injured himself, Buddha said, because if this king had not taken the life of his father, a righteous man and a righteous king, then in this very seat he would have arisen in him the dust-free, stainless eye of Dhamma. What does this mean? If this king had not killed his own father, he could have attained at least the first level of enlightenment called Sotapanna in this seat while I did the sermon, Buddha said. Unfortunately, the king had killed his own father and completed one of the rigorous misdeed. Therefore, he could not achieve that level of enlightenment, Buddha said. So that's the end of the discourse, friends. Today we were able to discuss the significance of five hindrances, understanding of significance of five hindrances, and get into jhana. When you are in jhana, you could get knowledges, super knowledges, as fruits of contemplative life. So we discussed the last section of the Samannaphala Sutta. We have been discussing the whole Samannaphala Sutta for 5 weeks. We covered a lot. Now I think you understand the purpose of bhikkhu life and bhikkhuni life. So they are to get all these beautiful things, and for that they need to practice sila, samadhi, and panya, nothing else. They should have the faith or the confidence, shraddha on the Buddha, and nobody could change it. Nobody could change it by hearing something. You should have the unwavering confidence of the Buddha and also the Dhamma and also the Sangha. Then you practice sila. A lot of principles are there. By talking, by acting, by thinking, you could practice sila. Then sense restraint, mindfulness, sati. Then sati sampajanya, clear comprehension. Then while eating, while going, you become mindful about that. Then monks and nuns should take meditation subject and go into quiet places and meditate with the instruction given by teachers. Then you overcome hindrances, do it over and over again in order to build a momentum in your mind. Then you gain all these knowledges, or sometimes monks and nuns do not direct their mind into those super knowledges, but uh, cultivate more qualities, powerful qualities to destroy cankers, asavas. These are the purposes of priest life. So I think you get the idea, and you make a wish now that we may be able to gain these knowledges, samadhi, panya, for our salvation. So, friends, that is the end of today's online discussion. I wish you all good health, peace of mind, and most importantly, may you have right understanding, right mindfulness, and right perseverance to practice Sila, Samadhi, and Panya and attain enlightenment in this very life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.